Constitution protects you from search and seizure without a warrant, from being unlawfully imprisoned or transported across state lines without proper extradition. You probably think you're entitled to make a phone call to a lawyer if you're arrested and to be read your constitutional rights, and you are, unless, as we first reported a year and a half ago, you happen to be a bail jumper or a fugitive or mistaken for one, and you have the misfortune of being arrested by a bounty hunter. Then all bets are off. You may have thought that bounty hunters disappeared with the Wild West. Today, they'll probably identify themselves as bail enforcement officers or special agents, but they're still bounty hunters, and they're still very much around. It's 7 a.m. in a parking lot in Clifton, New Jersey. Scott Bernstein, Brad Centella, and George, who asked us not to use his last name, are suiting up and getting ready for a day's work. They're poring over court files and making preparations to track down and hopefully arrest two potentially dangerous fugitives who have jumped bail. They look like police officers, and they're armed like police officers. They dress like police officers. They sound like police officers.
Open the door, special agent.
And they behave like police officers.
I suggest you open up the door now. I'm going to take the door down.
But that is where the similarities end. These men are all private citizens hired by bail bondsmen to round up and bring in customers who have failed to turn up in court. Their search and arrest powers are actually broader than those of the police.
Clear in here.
The morning we were with them, they entered this apartment without a warrant. They knocked down a door looking to rearrest an accused drug dealer who skipped a court date and could end up costing the bondsman they're working for thousands of dollars.
Secure.
He wasn't there, but it didn't stop the bounty hunters from roaming around his apartment, opening up mail, and going through documents and personal belongings looking for information that might lead them to their fugitive.
Are you guys supposed to be doing this?
Yeah, this is fun. We established residence. We know he's here. We're just getting information like who his parole officer is.
If they bring in their man, they'll collect a commission, usually 10% of the bond. If they don't, tough luck. No body, no booty, as the bounty hunters like to say. It's believed there are at least 1,200 of them in the United States, although only a few hundred do it full time. Some are bail bondsmen themselves. Some, like George, are ex-military. Brad Centella is a former policeman. Scott Bernstein, a private detective. They can spend hours driving the streets looking for fugitives. They say the work is mostly boring, only occasionally dangerous, and sometimes ridiculous, like phoning a fugitive's sister and pretending to be Miko, a good friend of the missing brother.
This is Miko. Miko. See? Raphael. Where's Raphael? Huh? No, that Raphael. Where's Raphael? You know? Raphael. Rafi, where's Rafi, man?
What are some of the ruses that you've used to get people?
Been the Con Edison man, Domino's, UPS. There was one guy on his birthday, I went to arrest him, so I went in a clown suit with balloons. Happy birthday balloons, the whole deal. Opened the door right up. Bozo put the cuffs on him. He wasn't too happy about it.
Why do you like this job? What is it that you find attractive about it?
Oh, there's no other occupation I find better or more exciting than hunting a man.
We're hunting the only animal that has the capability of hunting you back.
Bounty hunters have always operated on the fringes of American law enforcement. Until recently, anyway, it was a profession so obscure that most people in the criminal justice system didn't know anything about it.
It really is an area of the law that's completely gone without scrutiny.
Jonathan Drimmer is a corporate lawyer in Washington and one of the few people we were able to find who had researched the law on bounty hunters. He became interested in the subject after seeing a television program like this one. That's how he learned that bounty hunters had greater powers than the police when it comes to arresting fugitives.
Bounty hunters helped to create law and order. Federal law gave them the power to enter residences and cross state lines in pursuit of bail jumpers.
He thought it had to either be a mistake or at least an overstatement.
And I just couldn't believe that anybody who wasn't a trained police professional could have so many rights and be so involved in the criminal process without any training. And so I decided to look into it myself. and I discovered that it was true.
We told Drimmer about the day we spent with our bounty hunters in New Jersey and asked if they had the right to enter someone's apartment, break down a bedroom door, and conduct a search of the premises without a warrant.
Anything wrong with her?
Not legally. Perfectly legal.
Drimmer says their power is derived from English common law dating back to the 13th century. And it's not that bounty hunters can go around violating people's rights. It's that people voluntarily waive those rights the minute they sign an agreement with a bail bondsman. The bounty hunter is merely enforcing a private contract between two people. Last year in the United States, bounty hunters arrested 23,000 fugitives, but hardly anyone noticed until something went wrong. It was the case of Dre Mason, a 44-year-old grandmother from Harlem, that caught our attention. She was sitting on the steps outside her apartment building one night 2 years ago when two men drove up in a car.
One of the guys got out and asked me, first of all, he asked me if I lived here. And I said yes. And then he asked me my name.
She told him her name was Dre Mason, which sounded like it might be a nickname for Audrey Mason, an alias used by this woman, a fugitive from Alabama, and the person the bounty hunters were after. Never mind that the woman they were looking for was shorter, lighter, and older than Dre Mason. Before she knew what was happening, the men grabbed her and put her in handcuffs.
For the next 2 days, the bounty hunters hauled her around New York City, from a police station in the Bronx to central booking in Manhattan, where the police tried to confirm her identity. A fingerprint check showed that she was exactly who she claimed to be, but the bounty hunters, apparently determined to collect a $4,000 reward, continued to hold her. Eventually, they put her into the back seat of a car and told her she was being taken back to Alabama to face justice.
You ever been to Tuscaloosa, Alabama?
No, never.
Did you tell them that?
Sure, I told him repeatedly. I told him.
How did these bounty hunters treat you?
Well, they scared me. They never took my handcuffs off, and they had me in ankle shanks, which they never came off. I had to go to the bathroom in these things, and plus I had to eat and travel in the handcuffs and the shanks.
When she finally got to Tuscaloosa, she was turned over to the local sheriff, who quickly realized that the bounty hunters had the wrong person.
How long did it take the authorities in Tuscaloosa, Alabama to realize a mistake had been made and to let you go?
About 5 minutes. It didn't take long at all. Because if you look at the picture and look at me, there's no comparison.
What did they say to you?
They told me I could go home.
Did they give you any money?
Yeah, if you can call $24 and a bus ticket money, they gave me a lot of money.
When she got back to New York, the first thing she did was to hire a lawyer who got her a lot more money than $24. David Breitbart sued the bounty hunters and the police for violating her civil rights and won $1.2 million.
These bounty hunters here in New York acted with greater than police power.
And Breitbart says the only thing the bounty hunters did that they weren't supposed to do was to pick up the wrong person. Not only do they claim to have the power to arrest and the authority to break and enter without a warrant, they also seem to be able to detain and transport people across state lines without informing them of their rights or allowing them so much as a phone call.
They've assumed and usurped that authority, and there's no statute at this time that precludes them from doing it.
But police officers can't even do that.
That's correct.
Do you have to have a license or anything to be a bounty hunter?
There's no licensure requirement whatsoever.
You don't have to be a private detective or private investigator?
That's the outrage, Steve. In order to drive a car, you need a license in New York. In order to cut hair, you need a license. In order to take the liberty away from individuals, cuff them behind their back, take them across state lines, there is no licensure requirement.
In some ways, with the badges and the outfits and the whole thing, it's almost like you are pretending. It's almost like another ruse. I mean, you are pretending in some ways to be officers of the law, which in fact you really aren't.
I have no control over what you think. I mean, you may even think OJ's innocent. I mean, I have no control over what you think.
What kind of training have you guys had?
We offer courses through a national association of which we can do some training.
Mm-hmm. Is there any training requirement? Do you have to get a license from somebody to be a bounty hunter or a bail enforcement officer?
To be in the NABEA, there is required training. That's the National Association of Bail Enforcement Agents. But as far as formal requirement that covers all bounty hunters, no, there's none.
We found the National Association of Bail Enforcement Agents in a tiny strip mall in Tucson, Arizona. It's the closest thing there is to a bounty hunter training school. It's run by Bob Burton, the president and founder of the organization and the elder statesman of the profession. He claims to have made 3,000 arrests in 23 countries, and he coached Robert De Niro for his role as a bounty hunter in the movie Midnight Run. Burton lectures on the finer points of bail enforcement, shows videos of bounty hunter shows,
and come up behind them like this,
and runs a workshop on how to handcuff a fugitive.
Next thing you want to do is double lock them. Naturally, I got them upside down.
The course cost $427, and the weekend we were there were 14 students. A couple from Oregon, a bouncer from Indiana, and a U.S. Marine, all looking for exciting, profitable new careers.
It's a tough, scary, fragile job.
Out of the 1,200 full or part-time bounty hunters, how many have been through your course?
We have trained about 870 bail recovery agents since 1989.
How many hours is the training?
It's a 3-day course, over 3 days, probably 22 hours.
And you can teach everything somebody needs to know to be a bounty hunter in 3 days?
We can teach everything they need to know to keep out of trouble.
Not according to Jonathan Drimmer, whose article last month in the Houston Law Review said the lack of standards and training has resulted in unnecessary violence and uncontrolled, systematic, nationwide brutality by bounty hunters.
I could tick off dozens of unbelievable examples of misconduct. Bounty hunters interrogating a couple for 11 hours while trying to find out where a suspect is. Bounty hunters spraying pepper spray in the face of a blind man while looking for a suspect. This one's my personal favorite. A bounty hunter captures a suspect, handcuffs him, and hangs him upside down from the roof of his car in the back, drives him hundreds of miles to the court with the fella, the suspect, pleading the entire way to be cut down.
I would call the author not only stupid, but criminally stupid to make a statement like that.
Why criminally stupid?
Because it's not systematic. There's no system of brutality for bounty hunters.
We asked Bob Burton about the case of Dre Mason, the woman who was literally snatched by bounty hunters from the Bronx.
This incident of the misarrest in the Bronx is notorious because it's so singular. It's notorious because everybody is talking about it, but it's not usual. We perform a good service for the American society, and the bail bond industry does not owe any apologies for our arrest. Bounty hunters in America find 87% of all criminal fugitives. There isn't a police agency in the world that has that sort of recovery rate.
So you're performing a public service?
Every time we arrest somebody, every time we have to drive around a bad neighborhood, drink cold coffee, and talk to stupid people, and eventually arrest somebody, means one criminal off the streets without a cost of a dime to the taxpayer.
You'd be surprised as to how many fugitives are out there. I mean, alone in New York City alone, there are about 5,000 fugitives from justice.
These 5,000 fugitives in New York City, is anybody looking for them?
I wouldn't say that currently you've got law enforcement looking for all 5,000 now. Definitely not. You may be 10%.
So if you weren't looking for them, chances are nobody'd be looking for them.
That's correct.
Few people would make the argument that the system is not cost efficient. In fact, some people are making the argument that bounty hunters should be turned loose on parole and probation violators. Our bounty hunters did manage to catch one fugitive the day we spent with him in New Jersey and split a commission of $3,200 3 ways. They nabbed a car thief named Raphael, who later pled guilty. This time, no bail.